Hi, welcome to Cellar Conversations. And I'm Greg Knight, and I'm your host for this. And eventually, we'll have people here to talk with me. It will be a two-way conversation instead of me and you. So, well, actually, I would make it a three-way conversation. But anyway, we're going to talk about something that's very difficult for me to talk about. And this is the subject of abuse. And abuse can happen to many people, and it takes on a couple different names. And one of the names that's popular right now is called bullying. Let's be honest, folks. Bullying is abuse, and there are becoming more and more people that are blaming, once again, blaming victims of bullying, that they're not strong enough. Abuse is abuse. I don't care if you call it bullying. A lot of people consider me one of the strongest people they know. And I consider myself a strong man. I consider myself a man that has a lot of self-worth. I am very comfortable with who I am. And yet I was bullied and abused by someone that was very close to me. And it was during a time when MS and prescribed medications had affected my cognitive abilities to a point where I was as helpless as a child. And I say that, and that's not just figuratively, that's literally. I was physically very weak. I could barely walk, and I was abused. One of the things that I discovered as an adult who actually was labeled as such when Protective Services finally got involved is I was considered what is legally referred to as a vulnerable adult. I was unable to make my own decisions. I was unable to care for myself. I was helpless. I was dependent upon another person for my own care because I couldn't care for all my needs myself. And I became abused. Did I allow myself to be abused? No. Did I know I was being abused at the time? Not really. It happened continuously for quite a period of time. And one of the things that I discovered during that time is things that are set in place to protect those who are vulnerable, such as children, wives who are victims of domestic violence, vulnerable adults, the disabled, handicapped. They're not trained properly, and they don't stand up for the people properly. And the other thing I found out too is there were so many friends of mine, and I'm sorry to insult them in this way, and they tell me afterwards, well, we realized something was wrong, but we didn't say anything. And had they said something, the outcome in my life might have been entirely different. I used the experience that I went through as something to build upon rather than use it to hold me back. That's part of the reason that I am as vocal and passionate as I am about the rights of people, about the standing up for people when they're being bullied or abused. Same difference to me, because that's what it is. As a society in the United States, there's a lot of bullying going on, and they're trying to classify it as bullying, which is bullshit. It's just like legalized abuse. And that's one of the things that I'm going to discuss today. Against the LGBT community, there's bullying by society in general, just to try to intimidate them with threats, with legal actions, all sorts of different ways of harassing and bullying and threatening that to deny them equal rights. There are young girls that are experimenting with life about, oh, we're going to have some drinks. Then they get them drunk. They get them passed out. Young boys, because they can be such jerks at times, get them drunk, have them pass out. Ooh, they rape them. Oh wait, some people out there are so frickin' ignorant, they don't consider it rape because the girl shouldn't have gotten drunk in the first place. No, rape is rape. Rape means sex without consent. And actually, if you're a young girl, you're not even capable of giving consent if you're sober. So don't give me this crap that you like to do, because that's bull. We live in a... People who were supposed to... I got blown off by law enforcement. Law enforcement's blowing off these girls. Law enforcement's blowing off these things against minorities. They're blowing... And actually, to be honest, law enforcement's doing just the opposite. They're harassing the people that need the help and protecting those that are doing the abusing. Yes, you heard that right, Attorney Generals. All in every one of the states, plus the one in the United States. Your frickin' law enforcement thinks protect the perpetrators of violence rather than protect the victims. And it's about time that crap stops. It's about time to quit classifying, ooh, bullying is because some weak kid is getting harassed. No, that isn't the case. And there's always going to be a weak child.
Cat with curtain.
There's always going to be somebody that can't defend themselves. So it has nothing to do with things like how much their parents bailed them up. Why are people making excuses for the perpetrators of acts of harassment, bullying, violence, whatever, instead of trying to correct that behavior? No, they're talking about, ooh, let's correct the behavior of the victim and they won't be victims, and that's bull. Well, because at that point, you're once again blaming the victim for being a victim. Are you going to blame a victim for being a woman for being raped? Oh, yes, that's right. You always have in the past. And you have reverted back to that today. You'd say, ooh, they're dressed too provocatively. They shouldn't have put themselves in that position. Or, you guys, society has to change. This is a society, this is an issue about violence towards victims. There's no excuse for it. This is wrong. This needs to stop. And freaking law enforcement, you need to do something. People, you need to raise your kids. And I'll tell you honestly, and I've been reading up a lot on this, a lot of this bullying, they're learning this at home, folks. They were raised that way. Generally, the children that grow up to be bullies, I'm sorry, this is a cycle. It's just like child abuse. They learn this behavior at home. They learn it from how they're treated and how their parents treat other people. And it's cost me too. I mean, I know Melissa and I have been disowned by certain family members, and actually probably by the rest of her family. Because we were the only ones that were going to bring up the fact is that we filed a complaint because we needed something investigated about a family member. And the sad thing is, I don't know what the outcome is. All I know is nobody's going to talk to us again. We had to do it. It was right because, you know, I'm not going to mention who's who and all this other crap. But I'm going to tell all of you about, especially with your elderly people, especially with your elderly people, you have to watch out for them. Because they don't, if your families are the ones that abuse the most, believe, you know, and that's a statistical fact. And it's either going to be you abuse your spouse, you abuse your children, you abuse your elderly. And the elderly are some of the most vulnerable among all of you. And yet you won't speak, you'll speak out on behalf of children, you'll speak out on behalf of women. Nobody speaks out on behalf of the elderly adult who's being abused unless they're in a nursing home. It's because people don't want to point fingers at other people in the family. And I think part of the problem is the people who investigate, like person who's going to investigate the complaint that we had. I don't know how qualified they were or how much they can, read what's really going on or not. And it would be nice if they would. There's a cat there. And it would be nice if they would let you know afterwards what happened, because we're cut off now, so we don't know if somebody's going to, if they were told that this wasn't abuse. We don't know about the safety or condition about a family member, which is bull. You hear that, law enforcement and investigators? That's bull. We deserve to know. We're concerned, and we're not having a response. We can't get a response. And that's wrong. The reason a complaint was filed wasn't because we have anything against anybody. It's because we're concerned about another person, another human being. So I'm not going to apologize for things that I do in defense of people, that there is more than just a gut feeling of abuse going on. That there is a very definite, strong suspicion of it. And you need to look at your own families too, folks. You can't be afraid to speak up for these people. I don't care if you have to say, okay, let's put them in a home, let's do something else with them. If somebody in your family is being abused, protect them. Society, people, everybody, everywhere, regardless, quit blaming victims. The victims aren't responsible for what goes on to them. It's the people that perpetrate them. Punish them. But by all means, the thing you have to do is teach them, educate them to be better people than that. And if you can't do that, you really don't deserve to have kids, to be honest. Because that makes you, if you can't raise your kids not to be that way, you're scum, as far as I'm concerned. And God's not going to look very favorably upon you either. Well, that's it for today. I know you're going to be perturbed about the ending of this one when I call a lot of parents really kind of sucky, but that's just the way it is. But I do want to make one small point before I go, because I think I only got about a minute or two left. Not everything that's called bullying is bullying. When a football coach is accused of bullying for having scored 91-0 against an opponent, and he did everything possible to avoid that high score, aside from pulling every player off the field, that's not bullying. When he did everything he could. There comes a point you got to say, hey guys, your team sucks that bad. And quit having your parents make excuses for you in that point. You're just that bad. Live with it. I've been on losing teams. It sucks, but you get, it's not because they're running up the score on you. So understand what bullying actually is, and not make everything that you disagree with to be bullying either. And let's make bullying a true crime, every place. I don't care what age. And that's, the Cellar conversation for today. And thank you. God bless. And I will see you next week. Goodbye for now.